Hi everybody, my name is Kristal. I'm a homeschooling mother of 4 and a grandma. So the question of the day is, what can I do with my children because they're so small right now for homeschooling? So it doesn't matter how old they are, you can start homeschooling from day one. And the way you can do that is by honoring the divine potential within them. So what I mean by that is, so my children, when they were younger, learning to read and write and get interested in books, the main thing I focused on was the books. I really like the TJ Ed way of teaching, which is Thomas Jefferson education. And when they're younger, you focus on teaching them right from wrong, good from bad. By that, I mean no hitting, no biting. This is how you share. In order to be a good person, you tell the truth, you don't lie, things like that. But they also have these desires or these wants inside of themselves. They have interests of their own. And these are things that they're not taught in the public school system, because when you're in a room with 20, 30, 40 kids, the teacher only has so much time with each child. So when you're homeschooling, so for instance, one of my children really enjoyed studying up and learning about dogs. And when this child was learning how to read, that's what they would get from the library. They would check out all the dogs on the different breeds of dogs, what dogs did, what they needed. He checked out everything in the juvenile fiction section that he could find on dogs. He just loved it so much. There was also a time when he loved worms. And so we studied worms in depth. We would check out books on it, but we would also go out in the yard and dig up the worms and dissect the worms and figure out what was going on with worms. I had another child who really liked birds. So we got books on birds, and she would go out in the yard and she would sit there for hours drawing. And she's not totally into artwork now as an adult, but in that period, in that stage of her life, that's what she really liked to do. And it's not something that she would have necessarily been able to do, or he would have been able to do, if they had been stuck inside of a schoolroom all day. They can't focus in on those things that are of the most interest to them. So you see these interests, and they might last a day or two, maybe a week, maybe a month, and you just go with that and you try to give them all the opportunities that you can give them. And you can find out things that they're interested in through checking out books from the library or through little educational videos that are online. But these are things that you do with them, especially when they're younger and they can't read on their own and they don't know which videos to pick themselves. So you have to put some time and effort in. You can't just be sitting next to them, watching your own video. Although as they get older, they do need to see you studying your own things. And I'm not talking about Netflix or Hallmark movies. I'm talking about studying things that are of interest to you that you can share with them. So for example, you can see this piano back here in the background. I really enjoyed playing the piano when I was growing up. It's something I did for a couple of years, took lessons, and I don't have to play it very often, but when I get on there and I start playing some of the songs that I know, my kids will kick me off as fast as they can get me so that they can have their turn playing. And it's really developed, especially two of the 4. It's just something that they wanted to do. And I have a couple guitars over here. That's something that I picked up in my 30s, and I every once in a while will get it out and just start playing. And because of that, I have a child who likes to play the ukulele and a child who likes to play the guitar, and maybe another one developing right now. But yeah, just exposing them to those things. And you can do that I have a friend who, when her kids were little, she'd go to the library and they'd pick out their own books, but she'd pick out books for them too, and she would lay them out on the floor. She'd lay 12 books out on the floor, and during her homeschool day, She would let the kids pick out whatever books they wanted her to read aloud to them. And if you need to set boundaries for your kids for time so that you don't feel like you're doing that all day, because as moms we have other things we do, laundry, cooking, making, taking care, cleaning. Some days we feel sick. I don't know. But if you want to set apart, so like in my family, we mostly study in the mornings. And now that my kids are older, I like sleeping in, so I let them sleep in. Little bonus for homeschoolers. But when they were younger, we'd wake up around 7 or 8 o'clock. We'd make sure that we all got dressed for the day. You don't have to do this, but this is something that helped us feel like, our day had gotten going. That doesn't make sense. Our day had begun, and we got dressed. We made our bed. We had these daily things that we did every day to make sure that we were started. And then we'd gather together. They'd know we were starting because we'd have a prayer. And when they were younger and I very first started, we'd say the Pledge of Allegiance. That's not something you have to do, although I do like what the flag stands for, and I will say the Pledge of Allegiance. That's not something I'm against. I think America is a great nation. But yeah, and then you can do whatever you want for your morning devotional for your family, but just so that it's something that your kids know, okay, this is a routine my mom is getting me into, and it's something that they grow up with. And then what I was trying to say was we'd start, we'd have 3 or 4 hours. The older kids would be able to go off and maybe study something on their own, and the kids would know, okay, this is the time that my mom is going to work with me on stuff that she wants me to learn, and then I can feel free to bring whatever books that I want for her to read to me. And as my kids got older, I had to allot times to them because their demands and their needs, they weren't all reading the same books, and they weren't all needing the same things. So like child number 1 would get hour 9 through 10, and then 10 o'clock to 11 o'clock, 11 to 12, 12 to 1, and then we'd have lunch. And they'd have those hours, and then so we'd have lunch, and they were younger, so I would make them their lunch, or I would be teaching them how to make their own lunch because I like my children to be independent. And then after that, they'd know, okay, for the next 2 hours, it's mom's time. And sometimes I would even allow them to watch a movie, and I would do my own studying or research on whatever was interesting to me. So like guitar for a while. And sometimes the kids, they'd want to learn, so they'd sit there and watch too, whatever I was studying. So it's important to have your own time and focus on you so that they can see that that's an important thing, continuing and doing your own education. And it's important to allot a schedule for them. And if you have more kids, you could cut down the time, maybe do a broader or a longer teaching time with them all together, and do like certain kinds of math and English. And it doesn't matter how old the kids are. If they're interested and they're able to sit still and listen, then you might as well let them join in. So yeah, if your kids are young, just start with the reading. That is my 2 bits for the day. The kids will know that you love them and you're spending time with them, and you'll also be able to figure out what their interests are, and they'll be able to figure it out too. It'll expand their vocabulary, and it'll teach them how to sit still and pay attention, because that is a learned skill also, sitting still and listening. So yeah, if you have any questions or you'd like any more ideas about scheduling, just put your comments down below, and I can hopefully help you with that. Okay, have a good day.